Lunch and Learn today. We are talking about how we can connect the dots when we're talking to our students and we're using data to help drive the conversations that we're having. And we're going to talk about different data that's available in Brightspace. That's really going to be our focus today. We're going to talk about some types of data that are available in Brightspace, usage versus achievement data, for instance, key reports, what are some key reports that you can access, and maybe some visualizations from those reports, and looking at how you can give messages based on the data that you're getting. So let's start with an overview of Brightspace data. There are basically two types of data that you can pull from Brightspace. And I put a box of chocolates here, and it wasn't really supposed to be a Forrest Gump thing where you never know what you're going to get, whatever, because you do. It's just the variety of data that's available to you. And it's kind of tasty when you get into it. So I thought chocolates were appropriate. But we can get usage data, which means how, for instance, if students have logged in, if they've accessed the system. And we can get achievement data. And we talked about pass rates, we talked about grades, so that we can also check on that information for students. The nice thing about Brightspace is it does provide us with some visuals too and some charts and percentages. So it helps us get kind of that idea. We're not just looking at a spreadsheet. We can see how it can be represented, the data can be represented to help us with interpreting the data. Well, let's talk about some of these reports. And one of the reports that you can get is a class progress report, and that can help you identify students who haven't logged in recently. Can you type a yes or give me a thumbs up if you've used the class progress report before, if you know what that is? Excellent. Okay, I see one thumbs up, and then we'll show you an example of what it looks like. And then you might say, oh, yeah, I used that before. I just didn't know that that's what it was called. We have a grades report. So you can get individual or aggregate performance trends. You can look at the different grades that are available and provide targeted feedback. We have a content report also, and it highlights lessons that students are skipping or spending too much time on. And we do have a course overview widget. And I am really blessed today. I have my colleague Amanda with me, and she's going to drive a few of the examples. I have some screenshots. Amanda, would you like me to show the screenshots first, and then you kind of dive into them, or how would you like to approach
Let
this?
me show how to navigate to them first.
Perfect.
So I'll share my screen and we'll learn how to navigate.
Let me hit stop share on mine. There we go.
All right. So I am navigating from my sandbox. I think you guys should be able to see it now. And the class progress report is very, very easy to get to. It's probably the easiest one. So you're going to go right up to your nav bar here, and you're going to go under grades. And then the first tab is class progress. Now, mine is not going to look very interesting because it's my sandbox. I only have one student enrolled, but you can already see that there's some data that you can get from this little report. And when you do have a full class, you have your entire list of students, and all of this data will be listed for each student. Laura, do you want me to talk a little bit more, or do you want to go into your screenshot that has more detail?
Well, um, yes, one of the things, let's just talk about this for a minute too, because one of the interesting things you can see is the course. They've done 13% of the work so far in the course. So if you're finding a student, this student has an A and has only visited 13% of the course, maybe I have to evaluate my course too, because maybe if you don't have to do anything with it, then maybe, or maybe I'm a face-to-face and this is a compliment to what I'm doing. But it's also, I've seen 13% and the student has an F. So that's a different kind of conversation. You say, well, you're not doing well in the class, but you're also not looking at anything. So that could be why. And you can talk to them about strategies and how maybe they could change their time management, or those are different kinds of conversations. Let's look at this screenshot here. I'll put it
I
up.
do want to interrupt with one
Yeah.
last thing that I noticed. So, if you've got eagle eyes like me, you might have noticed that it said that Amanda student had no logins. I am going to guess that the reason for the no logins is probably because Amanda was impersonating herself as a student instead of logging in
Yep.
separately, which is why you would get that strange screen instead of what you see on Laura's screen here.
Now, the interesting thing about this screen also is that you see 46 logins for student B, that's the top line, versus 2 logins for the second student B there. The difference is, though, that logins can be deceptive because it doesn't mean that they've logged into my class 46 times. They've logged into Brightspace 46 times. So we also have to remember that. So that second student on that line has only visited Brightspace twice at all. So they're probably having problems everywhere, universally. But if we're seeing that a student is not is doing poorly and they're logging in every place else except my class, well, that's a different kind of conversation. I loved how Kate said, then that's a different kind of conversation. We're going to hear that a lot today. So the other thing, and objectives are a way that you set up your course. So if you're doing quizzes, then they can, or assignments, they can accomplish objectives with that. Not a lot of people do that here at Delaware Tech, but it is something you can explore if you have objectives that you need them to reach in particular that might be related to your MPOs or your CCPOs, something like that. Are there any thoughts, comments, aha moments about this report?
Yes, I
Okay.
actually, so the logins are literally how many times they've gone into any of their Brightspace courses altogether.
Yeah.
So when I see that a login of 46 times that that student has logged into any Brightspace course 46 times. And then the
Or at
second,
least in the Brightspace. Maybe they didn't even go to
right,
their courses.
okay.
But
And then for for B, that means that that student has only logged into Brightspace twice for the entire semester.
yes.
Yeah, there is also a way to get to specific course data within that class progress too, if you want to see
Okay.
how much they're looking at your course. Like if you click on an individual student, then you see like a
Hmm.
whole menu. I know I'm stealing Laura's thunder here.
No, no, please
Yeah,
finish it. Go.
But then there's a whole menu of things you can drill down to by individual student, including course
great.
access, which is your course, I believe.
Yes, so the next one we're going to talk about actually depends on how your homepage is set up. Most homepages, when we just create a course, they're going to have a template homepage. And on this homepage, you're going to look for something called the Course Overview widget. And on my homepage here, this is kind of like the default homepage in my sandbox. I'm just going to scroll down, whoops, and I'm looking at this little widget right here. So this tells us it doesn't really get down into the specifics, but it gives us a general overview of how many people have logged into this specific course over the last week. So you can see here in my sandbox, I visited it yesterday and I visited it today. And it'll tell you one person visited, 20 people visited, that kind of thing. It also gives 3 links to 3 other very helpful reports. The class engagement report, which I'm going to show you a little bit later how we can navigate to that, the course access report, and the tool access report. Now, the course access report and the tool access report can only be, you can only get to them through this course overview widget. So if you don't have that widget on your homepage and you want that widget, please feel free to put in a ticket or contact any of us here at CCIT, and we'll gladly stick that on your homepage for you. It's no problem at all. It's really helpful. And Laura, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit more about your screenshot.
Sure. So this is a screenshot that gives just a little bit more information. And so that you can see how it can be just a little bit more robust, that it shows you each one. And 3 people had visited the course on that day. No quizzes were submitted. It just is another way for a snapshot of data. You might or might not want this widget. You might or might not feel distracted by this widget. The neat thing is too, Amanda and I had talked about, oh, are we going to go into course access and go into tool access and show those too or whatever? If you want to see those, we can see those later. Or you can definitely explore them on your own. But I will tell you, the tool access one has a really cool pie chart that talks about all the different tools, like announcements or content, different things that are accessed. Any thoughts or questions about this one? Fairly straightforward.
Just really quick, sorry. What does that
Absolutely.
what does that widget look like for the student?
I don't think they see it. Do they see
Okay.
it? Yeah, it's hidden from them. It's only for you.
Okay, great.
That was a great question. All right. We're going to talk about the content report. Do you want to show your example, Amanda?
Sure, and of course mine isn't too exciting, but I'm going to show you how to navigate to this. Let me just... Okie doke. So I'm going to go back up to my nav bar. I'm back in my sandbox, and I'm going to go to help, and then all the way down here to content report. And again, my sandbox is set up for me to kind of mess around in it, but there are clear sections of content listed here. So every little bit of my content in my course is going to be listed in this table here. And you can see exactly how many users have visited each content. And if I click this little button here, so this one tells me my Start Here module, I had one user visiting, it can actually tell me who those users are. So you can get really down into the details with this report. So you can see here, it's available to this many people. If you have, oh my goodness, what are they called? If you have it set up to where, for instance, you cannot a student can't see a certain amount of content unless they've completed a quiz or completed a previous assignment, this will let you know who this content is available to at the time of the report. And then, of course, you can check who's visited, and then you can check the average time spent on that content. So if a student, for instance, maybe isn't doing too well on quiz two, you can kind of say, all right, well, let's see how much time they've actually spent on the content that quiz two covers. You can really get down into the details with this kind of report. I'm going to hand it back over to you, Laura.
And in the screenshot, there's just a little bit more data available to us so we can see that we've had, in this screenshot, we've had 14 users who have visited content at all. And on average, they spend about 38 minutes on inside of this course. Um, you can see that, for instance, the instructors start here, do not unhide one. It's 0 because they weren't really the ones who were looking at it. But course information overall, an average time spent was 2 minutes in the course information out of all the people. For the orientation video, they spent 1 minute 4. So this kind of also helps, as Charlene was talking about, that if you have that page, now that's that page, if your video goes out to YouTube or something like that, it doesn't necessarily tell you how long they actually watched the video. You'd have to go to your YouTube statistics for that. But at least it lets you know that the page is open. Now, there are a couple of caveats we have to talk about with time here, because theoretically, I could open a page and then I could decide I'm hungry and I could go make a sandwich, and I could take an hour to eat my sandwich, and then I could come back and look at the page for 2 minutes and close it. It's going to say I had an hour and 32 minutes in that page, but I actually only had 2 minutes. So you read this with a grain of salt, but if you look and there's only 2 seconds, then you can tell they clicked it and then they clicked on the next thing. So at least it does give you some valuable information, but we have to understand the limitations of it. Yes.
Um, when it told you the average time spent, any like videos and stuff that like pop up separately outside of D2L, I don't think it tracks.
Yeah, it won't. Yeah. Let's look at a few other reports that we can get. My mouse is not playing with me. There we go. There's quizzes reports, and I bet most people in here have seen something like a quiz report. Am I right? Give me a thumbs up or a Y in the chat. Okay, excellent. Okay. And then there, oh, and I see a thumb floating. And discussions, they have discussions, engagement boards. And if you're using intelligent agents and survey reports, we actually talked about those in a couple of other Lunch and Learns, and we'll be able to provide those links for you. But those reports are available to you also if you're using any of these ways to be able to get some outreach to students or collect their feedback. There are reports to help you do that as well. We're going to talk about this class engagement report. This was available from that widget, right, Amanda? Yeah.
So, of course, we can get through the class engagement report from our widget here. However, if you don't have that widget available, what you can do is go back up to your nav bar to the admin tab. And this one is a little bit trickier. There's a few extra clicks, but you want to go to course admin. And then your course admin might look a little different, but you should have a class list option here. So you want to go to your class list. And then once you get to your class list, and again, because mine's Sandbox, I'm going to have a short list. You want to look for this button here that says class engagement. So we click that and the report should pop up immediately. And again, my class is short because this is my Sandbox, but you do get a good amount of data at first glance. So I think one of the most important ones, especially when we're looking for attendance or students who haven't attended at all, is this box right here on the left. It tells you exactly how many students haven't accessed that course in 7 days. Gives you a little glimpse into the grade distribution. It also, if you are having a conversation with a student who's saying, oh, I did access this, or I did log on, you can see their last visited right here at a glance. And what I really like is you can see what students have responded to threads or created threads or replies in discussion boards. So it gives you a really nice at a glance kind of information about how these students are engaging with the class.
Amanda, is that sortable by any of those columns? Sometimes they surprise us and things are sortable.
I think only name is sortable. I see the little arrow here, but nothing on the other. Oh, wait, no, there we go. You click.
See, they surprise us.
Yeah.
So the reason why is if you have a whole class of 20 people, then you can sort by their last visit, or you could sort by their discussion threads, and then you would see all the zeros together or all the ones or twos together. And then that might help you with save you a little time looking through the list to be able to respond to students. Thanks for discovering that, Amanda. Sometimes
Oh,
they surprise us with those column headers. Try clicking any of these data things. This is for everyone here. Try clicking on them and see if you all of a sudden can sort your data, because sometimes that can be really helpful.
I'm going to hand it back to you, Laura.
Woohoo! I'm ready. And you'll see this one gives us just a little bit more data that we can see a more colorful distribution. And for this information, we had 3 students who hadn't signed into the course in 7 days. We've got these different grade distributions, and you can see even the grades come with little symbols to help them stand out. And we can see, well, look, this student who has 80% was here 3 hours ago. This student with 92% was 2 days ago. But this is another piece of the puzzle. My 31% student hasn't visited in a month. So that's something for us to think about in our conversation with the students. And sometimes, every once in a while, I'll send out little messages to Lunch and Learn too. You might have gotten one in the past. It says, hey, you've made it to 80% of Lunch and Learns. Keep up the good work. And it's really just me trying to help encourage people to find time in their day. But for this, you could even give kudos to your students. Hey, you've got, a 92% of the class. I see that you signed in just a day ago. Good job being responsive and being active in the course. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's our students who do well who don't get enough feedback because we think, oh, they're okay, they're fine. I really have to pay attention to these ones who are struggling. But sometimes, and I was an overachiever myself, it's nice to be able to get that feedback that says, yeah, you're doing a good job, and even that critical feedback that says you did a good job on this, and this is a place where you can improve. Because trust me, us overachievers, we want to do even better. But anyway. All right, so if we look at the next one, this is more of a quizzes thing. And I saw a couple of thumbs up, but not everyone said they'd seen the quizzes. So this might be a good example for you. You ready to take it away?
Yep. If my mouse is going to cooperate with me right now. Okie doke. So to get to our quizzes, there it goes. To get to the quizzes, first we have to open a quiz. So we're going to go to our activities on the nav bar and go to our quizzes. And I'm going to open test quiz 2. I'm not going to open the quiz. I'm going to go to the little caret next to it. Click that, and then you might have to scroll a little bit, but we're going to look for statistics. So we are opening that, and it's going to give us some information on the quiz. So it's going to give us the overall quiz grade and the grade distribution. A really helpful number to have is that class average. And then Laura's going to show you this too, but you can actually break this. These are the user stats. You can break it down into question stats and into the question details. So you can really see how groups of students are performing for each question.
You want to
Yes,
click
Laura.
on those since my screenshot's static, just to show real
Sure.
quick. I know there's not a lot of data there, but it's representational.
Well, I think my quiz is like I set it up to be like questions about Delaware. And of course I took the quiz, so I got 100% on all of them. But yeah, so the standard deviation is null and the average grade's 100%, but it does break it down by question here. And then you can go further into the question details and see exactly how groups of students are scoring on the question. And you can see, okay, we have 100% of students got this one right. Same thing for number 2 and of course number 3, but it breaks it down by question so you can really see, okay, are they struggling with one? Do I need to reword this or I need to rethink this question a little bit more? So it gives you some great information about the quizzes.
I used this type of data when I was teaching the Psych 223 class, for instance, because I was trying to make sure that my items were fair. Because I've been an English teacher, but I wasn't then. So I needed to make sure that my test items were readable. And am I testing how well they can read, or am I testing how well they know the content? So, for instance, if I saw that students had overwhelmingly underperformed on an item, I can make my decision then, do I give them credit for the item? Do I remove that from the calculation? Or do I recognize that it's something that maybe we didn't talk about enough in the course? And then I still have to decide what I'm doing with the grade. But it gives me all that data so that I can really think more strategically about those assessments that we're doing.
All
And
right, handing it back to you, Laura.
beautiful. And then on this one, just to give you a little bit better visual, you can see how grades were distributed here and how it creates more of a visual than just the single line that Amanda had, because all her students were brilliant and they all scored the exact same score and they had no distribution whatsoever because they happened to be the same person. But anyway, but typically on average, you'll see that there's a distribution of grades. And then this one, again, it just shows you a little bit more information about those question details and how you can dig into them just a little bit more. So let's think about now we're talking about that supportive outreach. So now we've looked at the data, we've seen some patterns. Now we want to reach out to the student. We want to think about how we can be supportive and student-centered. So we talked about last semester being able to keep the humanity in courses. Even though we have AI and we have all these tech tools, how do we keep the person? This is one of the ways, those supportive, student-centered communications. Now, we can set up intelligent agents to help us. Intelligent agents are communications that can be programmed in Brightspace that are triggered by a certain activity. Maybe they failed a quiz, maybe they aced the quiz, maybe they earned a badge, maybe they completed a module, maybe they haven't signed in yet. There are different triggers that can make an intelligent agent go, and it's just an email that most of the time it's used as an email that you send out with information. But you still want to, that does not replace you. So you still want to be involved with your students. And you want to reference that data respectfully. Now, I'll tell you, by the time I did that screenshot, I told you I used a screenshot. That person had told me 3 times and was starting to imply that I was crazy. So that's why I showed them the data. No. Here's my evidence. It's not a crazy thing. I didn't pop the data in there right away and say, "Oh no, you've never signed in. Look at this." you're terrible and awful, because that's how they'll read it. That's how they'll hear it, unless you do it respectfully, strategically. So here's some examples. You want for supportive outreach, you do want it to be timely. You don't want to wait 4 weeks. Say, oh, you failed that quiz 4 weeks ago. Hope you do all right on the one tomorrow. You don't want to do that. Be specific. So reference those data points. You have 30% participation in the course. You've completed 30% of the course so far. You're not doing well in the course. Can we strategically work together, or do you need to make decisions about your progress, your future in this course, and maybe signing up for it again at a later date when you have more time to devote? Those are conversations that might need to occur. Be student-centered though. You want to be encouraging as much as you can. You don't want to be punitive. And again, how I was talking about the screenshot, you don't want to say, blammo, ha ha ha, you didn't sign in, ha ha ha, and I see it. You want it to still be that conversation, that encouraging conversation. I believe in you. I think you can do this. What things are standing in your way? And is there anything I can do to help you? Will the tutoring center help you? Will advisors help you? So it's not all on you as an instructor either, but you might be that first responder who helps them get to the source of help that they need. And here's some things that can be kind of if they have low engagement in the course. I notice you haven't accessed module 3. Is there a way I can help you stay on track? Or your high achievers, again, we don't want to forget about them. Great work on your quizzes. I would say on quiz 1 or on quiz 1 and 3, whatever. But keep up the strong participation. Those are things that can help with those communications. You don't necessarily have to become a data geek like me, but being data literate so that you know what's available to you when you need it. That was kind of the point of this. All right. Well, we talked about Brightspace data today and how it can help support you in being a caring, involved instructor and help with that timely communication that you're doing. And when you move on from here, you can look at some of these reports, think about those patterns, and craft those messages to really help your students succeed.